probably after spring break, because these are very busy 2 weeks. So again, thank you for being here. I'm going to give a little bit of an introduction about the purpose of this morning, just very brief. But before we do that, I'd like to just do some introductions so you can really get a sense of who's here this morning from my team. And that way you can really just put some names to faces as well. So I'd like to start with our assistant superintendent, and I'm just going to ask each of them to go ahead and introduce themselves and share a little of what their role is and what their role is going to be here this morning as well.
Sure. Dr. Hobson, Joshua Jorn, Assistant Superintendent of Business and Finance. Also oversee components of safety in the district with my partner here, Principal Martinez. Longtime PG resident. Have a student at Forest Grove. Fourth generation PG Unified School District graduate. And I've been with the district for a couple of years, and I came from the county office where one of my primary focuses was actually working with our 24 districts in the county on comprehensive school safety planning, standardization, active shooter drill standardization, and working with law enforcement and fire to standardize practices within the county. And we're trying to bring that here to Pacific Grove. So welcome, and thanks for being here this morning.
Hi, everybody. I'm Barb Martinez. I'm the principal of the adult schools, my 29th year in education, and 15th year here in PG, doing safety, plus another 15 in Southern California. So I'm happy to be here to help facilitate and hear your concerns. As you go around and do your gallery walk, you'll notice that there's a parking lot station. Those are for all the other concerns, other than the ones we're really kind of focusing on right now. So any kind of concern that you have, we want to hear you. We're trying to really increase all communications coming from the community instead of just us pushing the information out. Thank you for being here.
Good morning, everyone. I am Buck Rothman, the Director of Curriculum Special Projects. Taught and coached for 8 years in the district, 7 years as an administrator here at the middle school. I never get tired of the view. I was at the library window here. I also was principal at Forest Grove for 7 years, been in my current role for 2. And my role with safety is I just kind of help out because I've been at multiple sites. My daughter went on Robert Down, and if something happens, I just have a pair of hands that can help assist in emergency.
And Mr. Binder, want to do a quick introduction? He's over there manning our technology. I'm so sorry.
Good morning, everybody. Matt Binder, Director of Tech. Happy to be here to kind of facilitate the online portion. Comes up that requires any technical assistance.
Thank you. Right, and so yes, we've got our team here this morning to really be able to be involved in the listening process, and also we're hoping to end today with maybe even some, ideas and suggestions that we can gather from all of you as well. I didn't really do an introduction for myself, but nothing like my team now who have been long time not only residents but also working with the district for many years. I just feel very fortunate to be a part of this incredible district, but it's only been 5 months for me, right? I started November 3rd. So in that, and that I'm going to just lead right into, the purpose for this morning. Having started and only been here for a few months, we've had to, in my role, really address some pretty big situations, right, that have come up and, really that have brought to mind the topic of safety. And before I go any further, I did also want to welcome all of our people online as well. Thank you for joining us. And it's, wonderful to have this as a hybrid version, right, to make it as accessible as possible. So really the purpose for this morning is as a result of some of those situations that we've had. We've had a lot of conversations. I've received a lot of feedback. I've tried to, as much as possible, have one-on-ones, when, parents reach out with specific questions or concerns. And through that, I've been able to, just gather a lot of really valuable information. As I said from the beginning, my first 3 months was all about, listening and learning from you as the community, from parents, from staff members, to really get a sense of what our challenges are and what our strengths are. But definitely through those conversations, one of the top topics that kept coming to the top was safety. And when we're talking safety, we're talking, really the safety, the structure of our school buildings, safety protocols and processes that we have in place, and strategies that we use to ensure and respond to emergency situations as they come up. But then beyond that as well, safety as far as our students getting to and from school, and the safety of our students when it comes to their mental well-being, and even, with a sense of discipline, right? I know, one of the situations that, really came up here, specifically at the middle school in the last few weeks, was a threat, right, that was made by a student, that was posted to social media, and that we really had to address. It was a very public thing. And so, those steps that we're taking, and, what I keep hearing, from parents in particular is, really just the communication piece, right, is how important that is on what we're able to share, how quickly and timely we are in getting that information out to the community. Because being a small community, right, word gets out very quickly. And, I think the more that we can get in front of that before everyone's version of a story, right, starts circulating around the community. So that's definitely the challenge. And I think, we had a really good conversation about this yesterday with all of our principals at our, one of our regular meetings. And really, I think the challenge that we know that we face is that very often when you're dealing with a crisis or an emergency, it's in real time. And our biggest priority at that time is dealing and really being able to address and ensure the safety of our students. And so, really, it's not going to be that we've got someone sitting there, putting a communication together of what's going to go out, because even then we don't have all the details. And so, and even that first communication that comes out may not have everything that we, can share at that time, because it's still a process, and they're moving pieces, right, to the situation. But at the same time, I hear you as parents, and I think that's the biggest concern of how quickly we can get that out. And that's a little bit of what we want to hear from all of you today as well. And so I think suggestions and ideas that you can bring to the table, we want to be able to hear. But I share that with you because there's a theme that's definitely been a common concern, that's come up repeatedly. And then I think the other piece is really just along the lines of how much, information that we can share when it is something that involves a student and there's discipline that's involved. My last communication to all of you really was the fact that we are limited in the details that we can share. However, what we can share, we can, and I think that's what I'm hearing from so many parents is just let us know that it is being dealt with, we're taking it seriously, and that steps have been taken in accordance to our student discipline policy, because we have one. It's very clear on specific to what the situation is, what the behavior is, and we have a variety of steps that we can and do and will take. Again, so those are, components of that I'd love to hear from all of you a little bit today, throughout the process of this hour that we're together. So that's that. What we have done and how we've structured this morning is really in small stations, because even though it's a small group of you, what I find is when we all stay together, I want to be sure that everyone's voices are heard. So we're going to break you up into, groups of maybe 2 or 3, and we've got a variety of different stations. We're going to have you rotate around to each one so we can really focus on the key topics that we've identified. And I'll, share a little of why we've picked these topics as well in a moment. And so that's really going to be the structure for this morning. For our virtual group online, you'll be together in one small group and we'll gather input from all of you, on the 5 topics that we've selected. Before we go into that, though, I did want to give you just a little bit of background. We really, when we're talking safety, we have, our 2 key leads and leaders who have served, on that committee of sorts, right? Since for the last 2 years at least. I mean, a lot of this work had begun way before I arrived. You've heard that we really contracted with McKimball and Associates a couple of months back. Actually, I think that was even 2 years back, and I'll let Mr. John speak to that. But we have had them doing a very thorough audit of our district, looking at our protocols, and that's going to be something that they'll be sharing out. That's going to be helpful to us so that we can have that information that'll help us in moving forward and making decisions that we need to make. With that, though, there are some things that we've already done, and there are phases to that process. So I would like Mr. Dawn to just give you all an overview of what that entails. So thank you, Mr. Dawn.
Yeah, Dr. Albertson. So yeah, we've been working with MC Kimball and Associates. I mean, I personally have for at least the last 11 years at the county office level. MC Kimball and Associates is made up of retired law enforcement and retired educators, especially in the specific area of school safety. They work with the county office on countywide standardization. Well, gosh, it's been almost 12 years now. They also helped write a grant for the county. We have a county committee that we work with all 24 districts. Well, actually not all, I think 6. Yeah, the coalition of 16 districts associated with that. We're one of them. Last year, we brought Kimball and Associates in to start out with the phased approach. We have kind of a 4-year phased approach on first and foremost drill observations and assessment. That was done last year. That's rolling into this year. So every single school site does 2 drills, actually 10 of the, sorry, we have the big 5, and they do 2 versions of that throughout the year, so 10 total drills. Kimball Associates came in and did drill observations, did after action reports last year. They're doing the same thing this year. Over the summer, we contracted with Kimball Associates to perform a phase 1, 2, and 3 threat and risk assessment for the district. So, one of the problems that I've seen in working over the years with safety is that being reactionary instead of being proactive, right? We need to be proactive in our solutions, but not be reactionary, not jump to a conclusion initially without doing research. So we felt like it was important to bring Kimball Associates into this district. They contracted with us. What normally takes about a year to do, they finalized for us from September through January. There's a whole lot involved in that. The April 4th board meeting, we had a special study session on the findings. But really quick today, I'm just going to give you like a high level overview of what the phase 1, 2, and 3 assessment is. So they did top 10 staff concerns, strengths, weaknesses, opportunity, and threat analysis called SWOT analysis, active shooter readiness and response assessment. That was phase 1. We interviewed staff, we interviewed parents, we interviewed teachers. Phase 2, which was the perimeter analysis assessment, that was done. They did drone assessments of all our campuses, custodial staff interviews, staff site interviews associated with those high level assessments. They did what's called a CEPTED, which is a crime prevention through environmental design. And basically what that is they take a look at our school facilities and they try to look at ways to better, I'm going to use the term harden our infrastructure without fully hardening our infrastructure, right? So we look at barriers. Maybe barriers don't mean fencing. It might mean camera systems, analytics. So through environmental design, right? It's important that we maintain the look and feel of our community spaces here. So that's one component that they took very seriously. We wanted them to look at because it's really easy to put a fence up. It's really easy to have cameras, but we want to look at the initial design promises that were made to our community as it relates to Measure D and the use of our facilities. So all of that went into the CEPTED report. They looked at a natural hazards disclosure report for us, did a full analysis, 2 miles around each school site. They did interior facilities assessments, exterior facilities assessments, and did a Megan's Law review. So real quick, high level, if you want to join us for the April 4th board meeting, we have about a 2.5-hour presentation on the findings.
But yeah, sure.
Was this done, when was this done?
This was done, the contract was signed in August. It began in September and they finished the process for us at the end of January.
Okay. And did they give us any information on, our structure and how to secure it in better?
Yeah, all of the findings and the recommendations will be brought forward on April 4th.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And then the first one's obvious that we weren't through one door, out one door. And I don't know if that's one of the main ideas that they would have, but we changed that. We changed it to 1 in, checking in, checking out. I don't understand why we didn't do that 5 years ago. But now here we are and we're changing it, which is great. I think that we're a little slow on reacting to the connection with parents. I think in order to get information out, we should use our police officer who's connected with our schools. And they're the ones that come to take, to find out what happened and help, or to take a report. If that report afterward could be transported via Zoom or whatever, to parents in a timely fashion would be greatly appreciated. The incident that happened over here with the car, something went out, supposed to go out at 2 o'clock. We should be able to confirm that the message went out to parents within an hour, within 15 minutes, not 6 o'clock. And then all of us sit back and wonder what happened and what's the information? When are we going to get it? We need almost real time. And yes, we need to give you time to figure out what happened, let the police figure out what they did, but they can give us a little bit of information. And it's just that connection, seeing somebody instead of an email or that fashion. Out here, the peg was missing, I guess. That's how the car entered there. We can't have a peg missing. I think it has to be replaced somehow, or somebody has to be there to attend it. It's been 2 weeks since the incident. What do we have? A metal pipe. Is that secure? I'm not sure. I hope it is. But from this, maybe do we go to bigger pieces in order to protect the thoroughfare that goes through? Because there's a lot of roads.
Yeah, and I think Mr.
Yeah,
Gould
so-
can speak to the
I
bylaw.
mean, there was a lot there to unpack. I think the communication component, right, we're working to improve on that piece.
And I'm gonna own that piece, the communication piece,
Yeah.
but let's talk about the. bylaw.
Yeah, so if we want to talk about, I mean, there's again a lot to unpack. So associated with the bollards, right, at the fountain, Holiday intersection, right? That's city property. So we're waiting to hear back from the city on this. But my interpretation of the bollard placement is because our field is a designated lifelike field. The bollards are actually 8 feet apart. So whether one was missing or they all were in place, you can drive anything through an 8-foot gap, right? My understanding of that, and I'm waiting for confirmation from the city, is they did that because of ambulance access, because we're a lifelike location, right? So bollard missing, no bollard, they're still 8 feet apart. So we're working with the city on the potential for installing additional bollards or barriers, right? But again, it's city property, so we have to work with the city. Everything from the sidewalk to the sidewalk is city property. When they installed that on Fountain some years ago, I know there was a discussion that I heard about related to the district kind of taking that property on. And that's not been the case. So we'll work with the city on increasing barriers as it relates to the fountain separation, right? But like I said, we have 8 foot between bollards. Any vehicle, including an ambulance and potentially a fire truck, would drive through that. That's a problem that we need to address, and we're going to address that with the city. As it relates to communication, back to what Dr. Adamson said, oftentimes we're waiting to hear from law enforcement, right? Because we can't release information so oftentimes law enforcement doesn't disseminate information to us quickly because they're doing an investigation and they can't give us that information quickly, right? So the information that we can provide to our community is really, really minimal and basic until we have follow-up information from law enforcement. And oftentimes we don't even receive that until days later. We use the term after action reports. Every time there's an incident on any campus within the district that involves law enforcement, we reconvene with law enforcement, we do an after action, we review what took place, what could we have done better, how could we have communicated better, how could law enforcement have communicated with us better? And that's how we proceed, right? Again, learning from our mistakes, unfortunately, and then trying to build a path forward to mitigate those in the future. So we have good partners at the city. They too have turnover and transition. They don't have a city manager right now. There's a lot of folks in acting roles. It's not an excuse, but I'm just letting you know that oftentimes when there's transitional, staff, we have a chief of police who's been there for about 6 years now, 5 years now. But they have Commander Anderson more or less in an acting role. We're just trying to work with them to better mitigate these issues moving forward. From the district's perspective, the MC Kimball and Associates report is going to have a whole lot of recommendations for our district. And then it's going to be up to our board to determine what we will and what we will not implement. So, yeah, it's a special board meeting. There was a question that was asked earlier. It's a study session, but it's open to the public,
And
just
it's,
like
yeah, from 4 till 5:30.
4 to 5:30.
So it's an earlier time.
What was the date of that again?
Go for it.
April 4th, and it's 4 till 5:30, yes.
Thank you.
They did this better than this. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, and then we'll take a question here as well. That's okay. go ahead. I think you both have done.
Did they include also recommendations for communication styles in their report also?
Yeah.
Can you repeat the question?
Sure. The question was, did MC Kimball and Associates include recommendations for communication in their report? So they're going to cover everything from policy adjustments to better communication, to visitor check-in, check-out, to infrastructure upgrades, potential upgrades, barriers. There's a whole litany of recommendations that they're going to present at the April 4th board meeting.
And I just don't want to forget, communication with students is also critical, and I think we really need to do a better job about that. They all have phones.
Headed to the office?
They have more information that they're bringing up to us, and so, and then after the action, it would be great if there was either an assembly or something to communicate back to them one message, so they're not hearing it. Because I think that's really important that they are getting, all of them are getting the same information at the same time is really critical, and people for their mental health and safety. Yeah, yes.
And I think that that's definitely come out of our
Okay, great.
ongoing
Thank you.
conversations that, again, that's, we want to be careful on what we share and do, but even from our LCAT surveys, from the student side of it, I can tell by some of the comments they've made that, there was a threat and someone's going to turn out that now I'm living in fear of it's going to happen, any day. So it's like, you read that and you're like, man, that is, how do we address and approach that? And I think you're right. I think if it is an all-group assembly, or is it a message that we give to our teachers to meet with all their students first thing in the morning, something along those lines, and we hear that.
Well, and to the film's point, it's, media is so instantaneous these days, that's what our expectation is, unfortunately, for you guys.
Yeah.
But even if it's a quick video and you're with the police chief and it's like, hey, we understand you're concerned, we are dealing with it, we don't have any information for you yet, but it's coming, and we hope to have an after action report for you tomorrow morning. Okay, I can sleep better now, right? A 10-second video from you and the police chief, I'm done. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think with the middle school and high school tapping into our leadership groups, like that's really like simple solution, right? Have something that we can share with our student leadership groups that they can then disseminate out to the rest of their student
Well,
population. With the elementary schools, it's a little bit different.
And these days, the video, text is fine, but we want to hear your concern in your voice, and like it makes us feel better.
I love the idea of the video, and you had mentioned, I think, and you're right. I mean, if it were to be me and the chief of police to get, how that, the media that, it goes up.
Almost like a
I
mini
love
press
that.
conference that's just
Yeah.
10-second thing
Sure.
that reassures us because we can hear and see you.
Mhm.
I can put whatever
Yeah.
behind a voice, behind a text, and tougher, right? But if it's a really concerning situation, we want to be reassured. I don't want to feel that.
I love that.
That's just a suggestion,
Yeah.
but it would make me feel better.
No, that's a great one. Thank you for that.
I'm sorry.
We had a question here.
I'm just gonna make a short comment and then I'll hand it over to.
Yes, please, go ahead. Yep.
To say, so in the past, years before, when there was like suspicious activity or something, we get a text message, right? Everyone's saying, no need to worry, cause then, and again, all the kids have phones and they contact home like, ooh, something happened, like we're all being sent back into the classrooms, we're all being sent back into like taken off the field and sent back. So something like that, if we get it and we know like everything's fine, everything's under control, everyone's safe. Instead of hearing about it for the kids, and everyone's talking and the rumors start like trickle down, and then 6 p.m. we get something still not complete, So just something to know that the kids are safe. That's, I think. We need that.
Well, and just the catapult system is, like, I love that we have that, but I feel like so much information comes through by catapult that it's hard to know if you need to check that catapult or if it's just like PTA or there's an event. I don't really like that it's used for general information. I'd like the catapult to be more like, this is something you need to see right now because it's like an actual,
Creative alert one.
like more of like a.
Yeah, and Tina, one of the things we've been doing is in the subject line, right? And that's something we need to continue to work on, right? Because
Yeah.
parents, the very first thing you see is a link and a subject line, right? Right, it's really easy to say, PGSD or PGUSD update, right? We know it's an update, PGUSD update on an emergency, and then write out what happened, and then you get the body of it later, because a lot of folks only look at that subject line, and we've heard that already before.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to stop you there.
But even if it were to be like, I think I heard someone here say alert or something, right? So
Yeah.
that you can distinguish it,
Yeah.
right? Between, okay, is this something immediate or is it just a regular communication that's coming out, that comes out every Friday or every Monday, right? Got it.
That's online.
Nadine. And thank you for reminding us, we need to be, watching. And, the intent of this was to break up into smaller groups, but, maybe this is, if we feel this is good and we're getting everyone's voices captured, we'll just say where we are and try to cover the topics. Nadine, yes, good morning.
Good morning. Hi, thank you. I think one of my biggest pieces is, yes, I understand the communication piece, but I also understand that you guys could only release certain information, so I get that. But my biggest thing is when the intruder incident happened and then the car issue happened, is how the staff, like the immediate staff, like the teacher that was on the field, or, when the intruder was seen in the hallways and asked what he was doing there. And he said, I'm here to talk to my daughter. Who's your daughter? Lucifer. those were not read. I mean, to me, that's huge. And there was no actions taken then. That's my biggest piece. Like, those actions needed to be taken then. That person that saw the intruder in the hallways needed to call PD right then and there, and that didn't happen. When the teacher saw the car on the field, yes, everyone's saying he was going really slow. He was just confused. I get that part, but we didn't know that until after. I mean, to me, my biggest thing is you get those kids out, you get them in a safe spot immediately, and then you figure out what he was doing there. And that's what didn't happen. And that's my biggest piece. Also in the past, because we've had kids graduate already through PGUSD, as you know, I know we met. But in the past at board meetings, it was Officer Hawkins, was the SRO. He would come to the board meetings. And when there was an incident, he would come and he would do his, I don't know if you want to necessarily call it debriefing because we already knew about it, but he would talk to the public on law enforcement side at the board meetings. And I don't see that happening. I haven't seen that happen in a while. So maybe we could reinstate that with our SRO. I don't know, but my biggest part besides the communication is the fact that, you know, everyone goes through safety training and I don't feel like that's really happening. I mean, to me, I can't reiterate enough. Like, I understand that, you know, at the end of the day, we found out that this gentleman was confused and all that stuff. But again, we did not know that in the beginning. The teacher doesn't know that. So the top priority needs to be to remove the kids off the field and get them in a safe place. And now we've had 2 incidents, because I'm using the intruder one too, where we're relaxed. We're not thinking of safety first in that point of view, where you go on a lockdown, you put the kids in, you know, out of harm's way, and then you deal with the situation. So that's my biggest concern.
Yeah, appreciate you sharing that. That was some really, really important information you put together in those comments. And I think that's where, you know, and I heard Barbara over here talking, you know, the situational awareness. And when we do our after the incident debrief and we, you know, review actions that were taken and what we, you know, with everyone involved, what we could have done, you know, differently, I think that's an important component of it. You know, just to speak to the driver, you know, on the field and what occurred with that, I think, you know, and you said it, Nadine, I mean, you know, we put that in the communication with, at first, I think even we had the staff out there really making an assumption, it was an incorrect assumption, but that it was a district, you know, issued vehicle, because we do sometimes have them come onto the track and access it for maintenance. Now, typically, you know, it wouldn't be during school hours and there would be some sort of, you know, communication ahead of time. So I think in that amount of time, that was an assumption that was made initially. Obviously, once it was realized that no, it wasn't. I mean, we contacted, I mean, a 911 call was made immediately to our police, our police officers, and our SRO was contacted, who was, you know, literally within minutes. She was there on the field, you know, with us, myself, you know, we had several of our directors were there from the district office because we're right next door, you know, to really be there to secure the area and, you know, ensure that even if, you know, there were to be a chance of someone coming back, that, you know, that wouldn't happen. And I think with our SRO officer right there, you know, that was a conversation that we had immediately, and she did not feel it was necessary. You know, we had the students in a secure area that if, you know, that really no one could enter, you know, come back onto the track at that point. But again, to your point, Nadine, yeah, you know, should that have been an immediate, you know, getting back into the schools, that's something that, yes, we, you know, discuss as a team and talk with teachers about what to do in that moment. So that we definitely learn from. I think going back to the intruder incident, you know, when that occurred, you know, with that, you know, that first question, they're looking for their students. You know, I think that, you know, remind me, you know, Mr. Jordan, as far as our contacting, I mean, we had contacted our SRO that day after that occurred. And in fact, we have a chat system that all of our principals are on. We as a district staff, our entire cabinet is on. So that when that happened, we got an immediate alert from our principal and AP here at the middle school to alert us to what had occurred. Our SRO was immediately alerted to really go, you know, come down to kind of look to see, because, you know, it was alerted that the individual was, you know, walking, you know, back up the street. So the idea being to, you know, alert other schools. If I remember that too, I do believe that we had even gone into a secure campus role at the high school directly afterwards, because there was concern that.
Yeah, he returned back to the high school campus, and when he did, he went to the secure campus, and during that period of time, after the SRO was contacted. The SRO began interagency communication with other law enforcement entities, and I can't really talk much about that because it wasn't shared with us until much later, right? But we identified who the person was with a picture almost immediately, and our SRO and PGPD began interagency conversation with Monterey PD, who did know who the individual was, right? That was even before the secure campus took place at the high school. And the reason why we initiated secure campus at high school that day was because he entered the campus and then they lost the site.
But again, to all of that, I mean, hearing from you as parent, sometimes we, think, okay, we're getting this information out and, we're sharing what we know. But if there's a gap in that, that's, we learn about that from you as parents and how you're receiving that information. So it's helpful to know and hear it from your perspective. And again, I think it helps us just make sure we're doing better, for future events as they occur. We learn from it.
I know this is all a restructurization in progress, and there's the assessment to come, and decisions to be made. But I just wanted to point out that I felt like a while back, we started getting really consistent, clear real-time updates, like auto dialer calls with lots of like detailed information, just an overall identification of the storm damage or communication lapses or anything that was going on in real time, like everybody at once. And I think it was just a little bit, I think it added fuel to the fire with the last two instances that there was not any kind of immediate information provided. And it is a small town, so like I heard about, I don't know what's word elementary school. I heard about the incident happening almost in real time. And went to 3 other meetings that day. I had a sober grad meeting and I forget about that meeting or something else going on. Everybody was talking about it, but nobody knew the district. So even just a blip of an information, an auto dialer call saying there was a situation today, we're in the middle of investigating it, nobody was armed, period. I think that any and every parent, every student would have been like immensely relieved to have heard that. After the fact, yeah, it was maybe an older person, maybe they were disoriented, it might have been a city vehicle. We don't own that property, you can't secure that driveway, breezeway. But the fact that there was like no communication and everything was done like radio silent, I think really shook a lot of people that felt like we were going in the right direction, and it kind of like abruptly stopped. So whatever it is and however it plays out, I think just consistently following the same MOs of communication, whatever it is, whoever decides that to be, is paramount. And even like today, like there isn't one single identifiable place to get information. I love that everybody's like trying to get creative and share things, but today like 3 people asked if there'd be a Zoom. I'm busy and I put it on my calendar, but I'm searching for 5 minutes to find the Zoom link to text the people. I searched on Facebook, I'm looking on the district website. There's not like a district calendar and there's not one communication place that everybody can go to in real time ever and find out what's going on. And when you have 3 or 4 meetings in a day, I'm not gonna copy and paste all these Zoom links into the notes to then make a spreadsheet to then send out to the board, PTA president and executive boards to then put on our websites and our social media. Like it's inefficient and it's a waste of resources and everything. So I think that having one place to have a district-wide calendar and a district-wide like meeting schedule, so you could see, oh, today there's 4 meetings. Which one of the 4 can I go to? Or am I taking that day off of work as parents to be able to attend or whatever it may be? I feel like if we want people to participate and we want feedback, because otherwise, I mean, we'll get the most participation, the most feedback. It behooves us to make it accessible for the vast majority to come, and the way that we're doing it just is not working. Thank you, Tim. Yeah.
And I want to have one follow-up question for that. You mentioned auto dial.
Yeah.
So are you just talking like
My phone
a
rings,
phone
like,
ring,
your
and
phone
it's a voice message, like
It's
a
the
30-second
yeah,
thing from me or
Yeah.
Mr. Dawn
Yeah.
is saying this is like, got it.
Yeah.
The robot.
And we're used to getting them and then we don't get one. It's like.
It's either a robot call, but I think we can
You
report
can
it in our own
report
voice. I don't think I'd want a robot call for that. I think it's
Anything is better.
Not that bad.
It's not.
No,
It's
if
not
any that, I would have appreciated it over nothing.
Yeah, got it.
I was like, I'm not getting one. This has got it. I was like, this has got to be really bad.
It's helpful for some folks that don't, I mean, Some of our families they check email all the time, some of them check text, and some of them answer their phone, right? So that's kind of the three pathways of communication that we use.
Appreciate that. There was another hand, I think, yes, okay. And then third there's a 1, 2, 3, we'll go another, yes, is that good?
Just, yeah, it seems like after the first incident, I mean, that's a pretty
Yeah.
difficult situation. I think after that, I would have called parents together. I would have given them opportunity to have a talk, come on the campus here that night before. I mean, we're waiting too long to talk about it, I think.
Got it.
It's 2 weeks since the last one. I know it takes time to figure things out, figure sequences, but better communication, the idea of meeting like this, I think for a lot of parents would come.
Was good, yeah. And you think sort of, you know, a day or two after an event to just allow anyone who wants to come and talk about it.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
To this, woman's point, to follow up on that, she's trying to dance around it, but I think also it's, one place also to come find any messages regarding an emergency. I think that's a huge, so, and not, but also not just access, I want to remind you that the kids also need access. That they should, they can look.
Well, because then they're like texting each other like screenshots. If somebody's, if one parent shared it with their student, then they're getting the messaging like, with the threat. My student was not aware. I did not want to make him aware. And a student was given the message from their parent and then they shared it in the group chat and then all the spiraling fear starts.
Yeah, so I think it obviously needs to be accessible, but one place, but if I don't have my phone, but my husband called me, I can jump on a computer and go, oh, there's the update for the emergency that just happened today. Also, my daughter could jump on if she is concerned about something, you get the real information, just like, oh, I don't know, they said this and this, but I'm not sure what's real. I can't stress them out, but the kids, want to be reassured as well, and they want the real story, and I feel like they can use training on what to do in these situations as well, so that they can be your biggest asset in identifying threats if we train them properly. To, if they go, what do they need to do? Like, they're gonna be talking anyway, so let's give them.
Well, because the day of the intruder, that classroom of students that saw him went out when it was passing period or whatever, and they all knew about it immediately. And then it was like they all started spinning the story, and it just was like, it was the perfect storm, right? Of like parents are hearing random things and then nobody's communicating until later, and it just felt like it just did not feel good. Well, those students were just like, they should going about their day. Like that was kind of traumatizing, right?
Yeah, I'm just off to the next day and before they come to school.
Right.
Yeah.
And I know Mr. Roach, you know, did meet with that group of students who was out there, but again, what, you know, it's that ability to do it right then and there before they go on to the next lesson.
And then let us know that he's doing that. It'd be nice to know what.
Okay, got it. Yeah, understood, yeah.
Well, I know there's a video bulletin that happens here at the school, so maybe we could address it through the leadership team, kids talk about kids,
Public address.
I don't know, something,
Sure.
where everybody's getting the same message.
Absolutely. I mean, I do like the idea of it, you know, I mean, how we communicate with students, it's that we're not going to send them texts or, you know, anything like that. So I mean, I do like the idea of just doing an all school by the same thing that we're all getting, you know, all of that information. I mean, you know, we could talk with our principals about that, but again, that's why it's one consistent message from the principal, giving that reassurance, addressing rumors that they're hearing about, you know, and maybe even being able to address some of the questions that are there. And I think the timing on that is big, you're right. If it's one class in particular, I think, before they, you know, if it's doable for them to do it before they even go
And
home.
maybe like something to add to advisory here at the middle school is kind of like teaching them the skills, less information is better, because a lot of these kids have siblings and then it goes home and then they're talking about it in the elementary school.
How do we
kids are
write
hearing
that?
it. So
We
it's like, I
can-
think parent, obviously that's a parent job, like you have to teach your kid to have discretion. But I think if we can incorporate that into like our SEL or something that we do here at school.
Yeah.
To kind of create that culture of discretion and protecting innocence and not making rumors spread.
Yeah, I'm thinking of our immediate response could be using Informa Cast in our public address system. I mean, this school is the last school that's going to be getting an update, which is the summer, and that's already been out, but all the schools have Informa Cast now in public address. So the incident at the middle school, where we are right now, I mean, we could have sent a public address announcement out in Informa Cast, which usually that's an audible thereafter. So we'll talk to principals and vice principals about that. I mean, I think that's the only way to immediately communicate with students.
Yeah.
Aside from advisory and leadership, right?
Yeah.
But then then there's the trickle down effect. You inform one group, they have to inform the rest. But we'll talk about that.
Your question, go ahead.
Yeah.
You've been very patient, thank you.
That's right. This is going back a little bit. You mentioned that the bollard was missing on Fountain. And, do you know why that bollard was missing?
Yeah, it had a broken weld and they were repairing it over in the shop that day.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. And then, am I remembering correctly, do these bollards have like a lock or something?
They
that
do.
keeps them-
Yep.
They have to be, yeah. and-
But
they can
regardless
remove
though,
They're
the
padlocked.
vehicle can get through them.
Yeah, the issue that we have is that they're AV apart, and that's by design. I believe that's by design because it's a life flight field. We're still waiting to confirm that, so from the city, but why would a bollard be 8 feet apart if not for the fact that an emergency vehicle can pass through it, right? Because in an emergency for a life flight situation, they're not unlocking locks and pulling bollards in to get through. Again, that's my assumption. But they are 8 feet apart. They should be, most bollards are 4 or 6 feet apart. That's a standard bollard width. These are 8, so.
Yeah.
On the field, then you need the ambulance.
Sorry.
Right, exactly.
I don't know.
And
if
they're
you
not
got to
waiting to
finish.
pull bollards to get an emergency vehicle through, so I'm assuming that, but we need confirmation. from the
I
city.
don't know if you got to finish.
So,
your
and
question.
so you're gonna get a ton of pressure to like, build Fort Knox and, do something and fix it, and I would just like to, there's a voice of people out here that would say, maybe exercise some reason.
Yeah.
I would note that that system has been in place for, what, 8 or 10 years? I'm not sure exactly how long.
Like 14, over 15 years, yeah, it's been,
No.
oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So
It
I'm older
either
than-
goes fast.
I'm older than I think, but nonetheless, I would say that, I think this is the first time we've had someone penetrate that system and
Oh, yeah.
because the bullet was missing, and so maybe before you put gates and stuff on the field and really invest a lot of infrastructure, that maybe you just build an extra bollard, and when you gotta take one out to fix it, you drop the spare one in, or you could, use a water-filled rail type barrier. There's a lot of little things you could do that kind of just keep the system that's there and keep our nice open campus. And that's, balance.
Right. No, that's very fair. Yep, very fair. Thank you.
We're talking a lot about what to do as follow-ups to certain events, but I'm hoping that there's consideration being given to prevention a little bit more. I love that there's now a buzzing system for the front door.
Yes.
But there's still a lot of ways to enter the campus.
Yeah.
That I know my daughter was scared after 2 of the events.
Sure.
Because she was in the gym and the doors are wide open and anybody's can access that at any time. So I just hope that's being considered.
Absolutely, and just know that that's always where our approach goes first, right? We want to be proactive as possible. So absolutely, yeah, and I think that's also where, McKimball's, their report is going to come in. They've had that ability with their eyes of expertise to look and see, where our soft spots are, right? So, we'll follow.
I just have one other recommendation. I know that you've hired the contract company and they're gonna give you their assessment and report, and you're gonna do it in depth and make decisions. I would also, though, be interested in being a survey to the student body. It has been brought to my attention, from some students.
Yeah.
Their firsthand experience when they do drills.
Yeah.
The students have a very clear perception of what teachers they feel safe with and are well prepared and versed in these drills. And others that have absolutely no idea what's going on and maybe could very much use additional training. The lockdown drill goes into place. Some teachers are like, we got this, let's go. Others, I'm not gonna name a name, but have shut the door and been like, oh, and my child was like, that's actually a drill and we need to get up and we need to get out of this classroom and we need to go.
I'm not sure if it's planned or not.
Mm-hmm.
This is not like some outside noise. We're gonna stop what we're doing, like leaves the class out of the classroom. So I know that maybe if you're not in those individual classrooms, there would be no way to understand, observe who maybe does or doesn't need additional.
So I can address that.
Yeah.
For the past 2 years, Kimball's been here on our campuses.
Yeah.
What they do is they come in and they just are pretty much invisible. They just watch.
Yeah.
Right? The whole team, like there's 8 of them, 9 of them, whatever. They're just watching protocols and how we, enact.
Yeah.
Then we have an after action report where we come back to staff and we go over it, site leadership and staff. And the reason why we did that is exactly,
If you see this,
that was,
walking ahead of the TV.
that was one of the reasons why we did that, right? We wanted consistency in drills. We wanted that to have that muscle memory. We wanted to have, just consistent drills, and we wanted to avoid exactly that, teachers doing what they thought they should do or wanted to do during emergency.
To dovetail into that, I think one of the impactful things that have changed since last year is, the adjacent teachers who are quote unquote doing it right and following the rules. During the after action report, we're finding out who may or may not be, and those adjacent teachers are helping support the teachers that are struggling or substitutes that are struggling. That was a big takeaway last year.
Yeah.
So we're leading towards
Yeah.
much improvement in that area, but you're right, this came up in almost every after action
Yeah.
report, every drill.
Yeah.
At the site.
So I'm like, if the student, I mean, and so a lot of times I think that parents and the students are really overwhelmed with surveys. They don't understand like the depth and the importance of this stuff.
Sure.
So maybe taking like 5 or 10 minutes during their school day and interrupting with an announcement and saying, if you could take this survey right now and give us feedback, because this is going to affect our ability to communicate with you and our ability to rectify the situation, and then giving them 5 minutes of their class time to actually do the survey, I would assume and be surprised if we didn't have a very high percentage of completion in that.
And we did that with
Yeah.
the LCAP survey.
Yeah.
in 3rd through 12th grade. Yeah.
And there was a safety
Instruction
component
clause.
in that, so we are getting a lot of,
Yeah.
some of the information you're saying from the students, we're hearing from them,
Yeah.
and we're reading those, those comments specifically, and they're very honest, they are very honest.
Yeah.
No, yeah. Question on that.
What I would like to see is, and also I substitute, you know how everyone has lanyards?
Yes.
I would like to see the big 5 attach those lanyards. So it's
Love that.
easy-
Whoa.
Love that.
Easy, quick look, because
What a great
the
idea.
staff does a great job of, saying we're gonna be doing this drill, and you compare ahead of time.
Yeah.
But if you're new coming in,
Mhm.
and especially as a substitute,
Sure, that's very
you're
good.
trying to figure out where the backpack's at, where the binder's at, and then you can flip
Right.
over
Right,
the lanyard and see it.
sure, that's a really great
Get
idea.
the key points as to what should be done during that.
On the other, just to address her, on the other hand, I just want to emphasize that we do have the big 5 and they are standardized safety protocols, right? Just in case X happens or if there's something in the community, we do these protocols. But to address you too, when a teacher is out on the track with a bunch of students, we do practice and have practice, think on your feet. Not every protocol is going to have a 10-step solution, right? So you really do have to have that situational awareness, where you are in time and place and space at any given time, should something happen. So we are training our staff, what would you do if? And every once in a while, like if you're standing in main hall, or if you're out having lunch with the kids, or if you're a parent, go out to dinner. What would you do with a conversation right now? What would you do if? This is what I would do. And practice those plans. We do it, I do it as a family with my kids and have their whole life, and now they're 25, and now they ask me, what'd you do with? Right? And so we kind of practice all the time. So it's a one-on-one conversation, you could have a couple of teachers, but throw it up on the 5-minute conversation during the announcements in the morning, and then have a conversation, it's tabletop conversation. So it's all about situational awareness and practicing those think on your feet skills.
Right, Mr. Jordan has to leave for our citizens oversight bond meeting, that he's got to get back to this week after school. Thank you, yes, Mr. Binder. Are we good with the online version? Thank you. I'm sorry, I interrupted someone.
No,
Yeah,
it
go ahead.
just a thought that I've had for even before Kimball came around. I feel like,
the drills are very conveniently scheduled when students are not like on the playground or moving throughout the day. Like, could we consider maybe scheduling drills to be at inconvenient times when they're not ready and not tell the school we're having a drill today? Because I feel like planting that in their brain, like, oh, we have a drill at 10 o'clock today, doesn't make them practice those things that they know how to do with more urgency, right? Like, if you're in the bathroom, if you're at recess, like, where are you gonna go? I feel like those are like more realistic scenarios of when something would potentially happen, like an earthquake or what have you. And I feel like if we practice those things when they're not ready, maybe it'll give them a better chance to think on their feet and think, oh my gosh, I'm not in my classroom, I'm not with my class, but this door is open, I'm gonna go here.
Yep, you can definitely add that with a, right, you know, even if it's twice a year, right, you know, I know that we always a joke is, you know, for the principal, that if we had an emergency, it has to happen at 10 o'clock on a Monday morning.
Yeah.
Exactly, our drills were, you know, but it's a really good point, yeah.
To Tina's point, actually, at the hospital,
Mhm.
they tell you, okay, drill is coming in the next 2 days. We can't tell you when it's coming. but
right.
It will be a drill,
Got
and it will happen either Tuesday or Wednesday.
Yep.
And you know that,
Right.
and so they.
Uh-huh.
You're still knowing that it's a drill, but you just have
But
to.
it could
Yeah.
happen at any time.
Right, you don't want to panic people, but it's coming in the next few days, so.
Sure.
And it would help staff, right? Because in those scenarios, when we have to communicate who's in a room, it will help us see how hard it is to decipher those messages coming in around people's face.
And then my actual question was, how many training days do we have for staff for safety protocols that happen?
So at the start of the year, we do a safety training for all brand new teachers and hires. And then our principals, who are also trained in Big Five, at the start of the year, they have their staff meeting, and they train their staff as well. And then we we added a community packet to our Big Five that's on our website. So our community knows our protocol, what we should now be able to do. Our students, you know, what they should now be able to do, and our staff should know what they should be able to do in the event of something. But I agree, you know, every once in a while, just throw out a situation, throw it out, what would you do it? That's the best practice, right? Because I believe it's real life, right? We have our binder, we have our protocols, and we practice them to get the muscle memory. But really, I mean, you're gonna have to have that come right to the front of your brain in the middle of an emergency, so. It's about common sense, think on your feet, and really thinking about it and talking about it all the time. Anywhere you are, in a restaurant, in a supermarket, in an airport.
Other comments, suggestions? One, two, action.
One other thing that I've kind of been. I have a feeling that Kimball will suggest it, but I think that our visitor check-in system is really loose. I know that it's on, you know, where they're coming in and signing their name, but
Right,
you can
sure.
put any name down on that. And we know a lot of people that are coming in and out of the office,
Right.
but I feel like maybe more of like a
Yeah.
secure
So
system.
we have, I mean, it is something we're looking at. I'm assuming Kimball's gonna, you know, really
Yeah.
suggest it, but it's, you know, one, I know, I'm familiar with Raptor, right, you know, where it is, and everyone who comes in, no matter who you are, it's, you know, you put your driver's license to it, and it automatically does a, you know, kind of a quick check, right? So yeah, I think that, you know, I think it's even a, the Governor Megan just, you know, check as well, right, and through that, but, so that is, I think, something we're looking at and considering, but yeah, that's. We'll see where that goes, but we need that, yeah, I mean, to me, at least we've got something, we are requiring everyone to sign in, but that would be a next step.
I'm excited to hear about the recommendations people forward, but is it going to also be brought forth with realistically, you know, we're gonna get all excited about, oh, we can do this,
Oh,
this,
yeah.
but like, is it gonna be brought forth with, but we don't have the money to do this
Yes,
yet?
that's the
but-
reason.
Yeah. So
That's the
really,
reason.
it's,
Okay.
you know, look, I mean, Kimball's gonna give us their whole litany of, you know, it's gonna be a very, complicated and long list of items, so really, and that's where, you know, our team meeting with them, you know, we bring that forward to the board, it'll be our proposal of what we can do immediately, and, you know, our phases, right, with that, Mr. John was talking about, I think, you know, the, you know, 2 years, 5 years down the line, but I think what we've got to do is help with McKimble's support is, you know, prioritize what can we do now, what can we afford, you know, obviously funding, you know, is an area that we've got to consider. And so that's, I think, yeah, we'll be reasonable about it, but absolute priorities, right, is what we'll look at.
And then we ask for board direction. Right?
Yes. Yeah, and our board is very much in the up. They, you know, they're behind this, you know, hook, line and sinker, you know, but they also realize, you know, they've got to make those decisions. And it's really up to us as the staff to present to them what's doable. You know, we've got experts through Kimball, but we've also had, you know, Barbara and Josh really who, you know, kind of have that sort of day-to-day, real life, you know, experience, hands-on piece that, you know, we know what's doable based on what, you know, the budget that we have is available to us. So, yeah.
I do have something. I don't want to forget about these posters that we put around the room because, you know, you may be thinking in the back of your mind, but we didn't address this. We didn't address that. And we pretty much allotted, you know, an hour or two for this meeting, but I am really wanting your input on everything. So there's Post-it notes on your tables, there's pens on your tables.
We can finish with thought
And-
first.
Yes, and,
Just so you know that we've got four pages of notes now.
right.
Also, a lot of people wrote about safety on the LCAP survey as well. And there were really two different paths as far as safety. One is the safety kind of conversation that we had here. The other discussion around safety really had to do with how the students treat each other, how staff treat students, and how students treat staff. So that there was kind of those two paths in terms of feeling safe.
And so if you weren't a part of that LCAP meeting that was online with Mr. Overman, then go ahead and write your feelings about those topics, either on the social emotional support over there, how we treat each other, how teachers treat students, how students treat students. If you have ideas for the parking lot, such as trainings, right? Or having safe school ambassadors, or having youth to youth, organizations like that come in and really teach that conflict resolution. We already have things in place, but there's always stuff that we can look at. Another issue that came up at the LCAP meeting was traffic control, right? Working with the city, right? Working with a highway, right through the high school campus, right? We can't really, and then, you know, coming down Forest Avenue. Topics that came up was the back parking lot of the high school, ingress, egress into and out of that parking lot. And then again, having a sidewalk on the opposite side of the street with a crosswalk for those families coming down from Arkway. All of those are negotiated with city council and the traffic commission, so we'll be attending city council meetings, but also asking parents to.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we have loud parents, if we need to show up and write letters. I mean,
And
that's-
actually to that point, so you may have heard that we have actually organized and coordinated a joint subcommittee with the city. And so we are, and this is really something that was one of my first conversations with our interim city manager. And so we've got two of our board members, myself, Mr. John, our mayor, Bill Peak, the interim initially, but I think they're getting ready to hire their new city manager, and then two of their city council members. We're going to be meeting once a quarter, and our first meeting is in April. And really, that's a great opportunity for us to be able to have these conversations just in a, you know, more casual, you know, informal manner. That, you know, we'll be building those agendas each time we meet, and it's an opportunity to really talk about, you know, number one, partnering, right? That, you know, as these events come up and situations occur, you know, we've got that ability to really be able to collaborate and work together. So we're excited about that. And when we say we've got, you know, good relations and collaboration, it really is with our city, but also with our PD as well. So, you know.
So some great ideas. I really appreciated the ideas and now today, and I think they're doable ideas, and those are the best ideas ever, right? So things that we really can include in the overarching districts, school plan.
But I think to Barbara's point, if you do have anything else that you want to just leave with us before, you know, you leave for the morning, if you want to add it on the post, if you can write it directly onto any one of the charts that are there. We'll make sure you collect that.
So by the way, our see something, say something anonymous tip line goes live on April 1st.
That's the
Sandy Hook Promise. And all of our staff has been trained and we've logged on, so we are live. Our students have been trained at the middle and high school, so we're excited to see how this rolls out. Now, we've been told by See Something, Say Something that, you know, we'll probably have a spike at the beginning, so just want you to know that. People are gonna wanna try it out, right? And they're gonna report anything. But then we should see the trends go down, and we're gonna practice that too as an administration team. Each site has their lead teams that will respond and partner with law enforcement and other agencies to work on those tips. Just one more.
No, I'm glad you mentioned that. Yeah, that's something new as well.
Just sitting here thinking, I don't want to sound like I'm, budget.
Yeah.
So do anything kind of
No,
activist, but in respect to the idea of, mixing up what we do the drill,
Sure.
I'm just kind of thinking about my kids and some of the things that, they reported their friends and, or just, encourage you to check with whoever we have as mental health resources, because, it does seem like kids are quite anxious, in part because of the level of information that they're bombarded with, and sometimes I think part of that chaotic information flow,
Sure.
There's some stuff that gets pretty inaccurate, and people get, some of the kids get really anxious about that.
Sure.
Like, so I
Right.
think anxiety is
Yeah.
an issue.
Sure.
And as we go forward, figuring out how to drill the kids, kind of just balance that with, not terrifying. I'm not sure which board to stick that off.
Yeah.
I believe that came up in the outbound meeting as well. So
Good.
Yeah, no, and that's absolutely reasonable as well. And we've got to always have that in the, not just the back of our head, it's really got to be in the front, right? Constantly what we share, how much, and to still give it with that reassurance, right? That they need to know they're safe.
Right,
and
because
we've got this, yeah.
is important as their physical safety and, going forward through life, like they need to, that's what we are here to prepare them for, right? Not to be terrified of the universe.
And to add on to what you're saying, also maybe after they go through a drill,
Yeah.
there's an opportunity for them to somehow be asked how they felt.
Right, sure,
Maybe they write on some paper and hand it into their advisor that morning.
right, yeah,
So they don't have to share it. We're all in middle school. We don't want to share our feelings. Even as adults, we don't share our truth.
sure, right.
So, but once you get the feeling out, it leaves your body, then you're feeling a little bit
Sure.
better.
Right.
And then maybe we can address some of those concerns. The video bulletin the following day. Okay, a lot of people said they felt scared because of I don't know.
Yeah,
But it's a way to help the kids with their anxiety.
sure.
If they can get it out and actually express it
Right.
in a way that would create, in a realistic way that might be possible.
Mhm. No, that's a great idea as well. A little debrief with it and it'll give us important information, right?
You can have maybe a website that they can go to within the school and have information personally to them. They can, get it from there with a little video or something from you. Explaining the situation now.
Right.
Work it out.
Get that, yeah.
Dr. Adamson, it's Nadine online.
Hello again.
Hi, I just wanted to say thank you so much for doing this. I think this was great, and I think as a community and putting our heads together is a great opportunity, not only, for as parents to, get to know each other more. I know a lot of us know each other, but I think the more we work together like a team sport, the more proactive and the more things we can accomplish, to be honest. So I just wanted to say thank you for listening and doing this.
Thank you for that, Nadine. I love your idea of it's a team, right? We are,
Yes.
we can't do this alone. And thank you. I commit to, wanting to do this more often, with those of you who want to hear and talk about it. But I agree, if we're acting alone in isolation, we're going to get nowhere. And so I appreciate all of you showing up and being, vocal and sharing your ideas and your perspective, right? Like I said, I think we can share out what we have and that, but, if there are gaps, you're the ones who've got to tell us and we've got to make ourselves available to be able to hear. So we appreciate you. Thank you. Yeah. Well, do we want to end it there again? I just thank you for being here today, just giving of your busy days. I know this is, when do we have time, right? But you know, I think I'm gonna, you know, will commit to you, you know, making time for these and giving variety and always offering hybrid, right? You know, for those who can't come in person. And just your voices, I think most importantly, that's really given us something to carry with us as we're making these important decisions moving forward. To me, you know, the whole thing of the communication piece, it's so valuable, and that's such an important, you know, component of everything we do. To me, everything comes down to communication, and, you know, and sometimes we all think of that as just, you know, one side of it. There's so many assets and, you know, to that, right? And it's not just, you know, written. So again, we thank you. I would encourage you, please, you know, leave any lasting thoughts with us on Post-its. Anyone online, if you want to go and put something in the chat or something that has not been added, please take coffee with you if you would like to. And we have cookies, so don't let them go to waste, right? Take one for your kiddos. Again, thank you so much for being here today. We really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye, everyone online. Thank
Bye,
you. So
everybody.
appreciate you. And good, we have this as a recording too. Yes, indeed. Shell, thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thanks for.